Okay, good morning everyone. So we'll start the session, this workshop. So basically, this workshop is just to give you an idea. Like if you want to learn generative AI, if you want to be part of this AI journey, so what are the things that you can do? So basically, I've put it into three stages. So if you want to learn generative AI or if you want to learn large language models, and you want to be part of this AI journey that is happening around us. So what are the things that we need to do? What I need to learn? Which are the topics that I need to cover? So in this workshop, I'm going to cover everything in detail from basic to very advanced level, how your learning journey should be, and which topics you should cover in a proper structured way. We'll go through each of them. So let us start. Okay, so I've divided this roadmap of learning generative AI into three parts. One is building your foundation. So I'm calling it as a foundation building, where we are going to cover the basic things required to learn generative AI. Okay. Then after that, we'll look into the deep learning part, because deep learning is very very important, and we all should be having at least good understanding of neurons, how does the neural network work, and what are the different algorithms here, and certain part of natural language processing. Now once we've covered these, then we would be in a very good shape to understand these generative AI models. What are the recent GenAI models that we are having? So let us go to each of them one by one, starting from foundation building, then looking into deep learning, and finally discussing about the generative AI part. So first of all, the foundation, basic thing that you would require if you want to learn generative AI, you should be having a very solid foundation. In foundation, you need to know about Python is one of the topmost programming language. So you should have good hands-on experience in Python. Okay. Then you should also know how to develop web applications. Like when you would be working on these models, you have to go and you have to deploy them. So you should be having experience in Flask app. Also, you should be have understanding of linear algebra and statistics, because these all GenAI models, AI models, the foundation of them is basically mathematics and statistics. So you should have a fair understanding of this. And finally, part of machine learning, you should also know what is machine learning. So if you want to actually go through these properly, it will take 1 or 2 months, depends upon your background, and if you're having previous expertise or previous experience in any of these things. Okay, so in Python, what are the things that you can cover? So basically Python, you should know about data structures, you should know about control flow, you should know about how to create these loops and all. Then there are different types of functions, so how to create functions, and basically how to create these uh, different objects when we are doing coding, okay, when we are writing scripts and all, how to create different objects when we are working on model deployment. So we should be having very good hands-on experience on this. So if you don't have, you can still go and learn Python. Python is very simple. There are a lot of materials available online. Okay, so you can start with basic. In 3-4 weeks, in a month's time, if you practice daily half an hour, 1 hour, you will have a good understanding of Python. You can write the scripts. Okay. The second thing, very very important, is to know these web application tools like Flask we are having, or Fast API. There are different services. So why it is important is that when you build your model, you have to have some sort of visual interface for that. Okay. Otherwise, it will be just looking all code. So you need to have a web interface for that, and Flask or Fast API can help you with that. Okay. So again, you can spend some time learning basics of Flask, okay, learning about Fast API. How can actually you go and you can build these applications for the model that you might be building. This is very very important uh, from the part of deployment. And you should be having a very very foundation knowledge. You should be having good understanding of linear algebra, because it is a foundation. So you should be knowing how to solve the matrices, how to work on the vector database. So you should also be knowing about probability distributions. So different type of probability distribution that we are having, you should be having some knowledge of calculus like integration derivatives, because that will help you to understand how does deep learning work. And this entire GenAI is based on this deep learning model that we are having, which we are going to talk in some times. Then again, some of the very important concepts that we are having is like gradient descent. Okay, we are having some other, so like model optimization. Okay, then uh, looking into different types of optimizers. So to understand that, you should be having basic level understanding of linear algebra. Okay, so you can cover basic linear algebra in some. There are a lot of resources available. At the end of this session, I will share some link with you, which you all can go through that. So there are good resources available where you can go. You can cover basics of linear algebra and statistics. Now, once you have done that, so ML fundamental, as I said, the part of foundation course. So like when you cover the foundation, ML is very important. So you should be knowing about what are the different steps that we are covering when we are solving machine learning. So what are the steps that we are covering, like starting from data collection, data preparation, then uh, choosing a model. So whether it is a continuous data or it is a categorical data, what kind of problem you are solving, you have to look into that, and then training that model, and finally evaluating and uh, checking how is the accuracy of the model. Is it performing well? It is not performing well. You may want to do some sort of parameter tuning if the prediction is not very good, and finally look into that. So different types of ML model, broadly if you see, we are having three types of machine learning model. Supervised learning, that is having regression and classification. Then we are having unsupervised learning, it is having clustering. And finally we are having reinforcement learning. Okay, so reinforcement learning is basically where uh, we don't have any data as such. Okay, the model learns by doing simulations, like we say trial and error. So we have an agent and environment, and it is learning from that. So you should be having good knowledge of this. Again, I'll just come back. So what do we require in the foundation? Remember, foundation you can go, you can learn. So but what are the important things that you need to know in the foundation? You have to be very good in Python. You should know certain web applications, like once you build your model, how do you go and deploy that. So you can cover Flask apps. Okay, and again, having good knowledge of Python is important, because see, once you having good knowledge of statistics and linear algebra is important, because once you have a knowledge of linear algebra and statistics, at least you know that this basic concept you understand about, what is back propagation, what is forward propagation, how it is working. To know all those things, we have to understand properly linear algebra. And finally, we should also know about machine learning basics. So in these, there are three important parts: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So you should also be knowing about them. So if you want, like if you're planning, so you can cover foundation models, this foundation part in 1 and 2 months. It depends upon, like if you already know Python, you're having sound knowledge in linear algebra, then you can go through this. If you know ML and all, I think hardly even in 1 month or even less than 1 month. So it all depends. If you have any previous knowledge, then quickly you can cover that part. Or maybe if you don't know anything, then it will take around 2 to 3 months. Again, how do you study? Like how much of time you want to spend on yourself to go through all these things. But this foundation is very important, because the entire building of generative AI, large language model that you're looking for, is based on this foundation. This foundation has to be very solid. And as I said, you have to be very strong in these things. You can spend some time, maybe 1 month, 2 months, covering the basic concepts, doing good hands-on, coding in Python, looking into ML, building some model, taking some use cases. So spend some time around this. Okay. Now once you spend some time around this, maybe in 1 month or 2 months, it again depends how you are learning, what is your basic background, have you all work or not in any of these, do you know. So it, all these cases, maximum I feel it should maximum take 2 months to cover this, if you're planning for foundation part. Now let's say one, you have done the foundation. Okay, you have gone through Python, you have covered basics of Python and all. Now you also know how to build a web application. You understand matrices, probability distribution, integration, and all that is required. So you can understand all these concepts of gradient descent optimizations. Okay, and then you also have built some model like you have used supervised learning, unsupervised learning. Now after these, you can move to, so we discuss the foundation building part. So once this foundation building is completed, okay, which is having Python, machine learning, statistics, web applications. Now once you have complete this foundation, now you can move to the deep learning part. Okay, because deep learning you will understand on basis of your foundation that you have gone through this in 1 or 2 months. So now I will move to deep learning part, and then we'll move to the GenAI part. So now once we have gone through the foundation, okay, questions I will take in the ending, please just give me some time. So now once we have gone through the foundation, now we can move to the deep learning part. So ideally, if you know some of the things, you can spend 1 month in that learning those things, or if you are not aware of some of the concept, then you can spend around 2 months maximum. 2 months you should be having a very solid foundation. Now once it is done, then you can move to deep learning part. Now in deep learning part, you should be knowing any of these frameworks that we are having. Now when we talk about this framework, there are different types of framework here, like TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch. Okay, mostly we use PyTorch in all these GenAI models, but again you can learn about TensorFlow and Keras also. You can spend some time there. So you can choose one of them, master these deep learning frameworks, which is very important for building and training the GenAI models that we are having. You can focus on the practical code implication of that, experimenting that. Now once you have done that, then you can cover the deep learning part. Now in deep learning network, you should know how to build a multi-layer neural network. Again, so understanding how these work, what are the basic ingredients in that, what is forward propagation, what is back propagation, and after that you should know different models that we are having in deep learning, like ANN, CNN, RNN, LSTM. So you can spend some time understanding them. And the other very, very important part is understanding natural language processing. So let us look into them one by one, each of them, for the deep learning part. As I said, one framework. Okay, you choose one framework. Mostly PyTorch I would advise, because all these GenAI models are based on PyTorch. So you can learn PyTorch. It is very easy. So you can spend some time, practice some code. A lot of resources are available. I will share you some resource. You can go through that. Again, there is a lot of plenty of materials available online. You can go through that. You can master these different frameworks. Okay. If you learn TensorFlow, you can learn Keras. Same way, if you know Keras, you can very easily learn PyTorch. You can understand these frameworks and all. Now once you have done this, you can spend around like 2 weeks, 1 week learning these frameworks. Now once you have done that, then you can go to the deep learning network. Now you have to understand how to build a multiple layer neural network. For example, what is this back propagation, what is the forward propagation, what are the input layers, what are the hidden layers, what is happening in the hidden layers, then what is output layer, and also understanding different types of activation functions. There are different types of activation functions. Then we are having loss function, cost function, optimizers. All these things you can spend around 3-4 weeks learning them, and this is very, very important, because once you know that, then only you can understand llama model. What is llama model, what are the transformer architectures, because this is the foundation for your GenAI models. So you have to spend some time, you have to understand this concept, and basically you should understand like a 5-year kid. Now what is optimizer, why do we require optimizer, what is loss function, why do we require loss function, what is loss function doing there, what if loss function is not there, what are the activation functions, what exactly is the role of activation function in the deep learning. Okay, what if there are different types of activation function like sigmoid, ReLU, tanh, what exactly are they doing there. Okay, what if I change, how do I know which one to select. There is a lot of things that you need to know. So you can again go through a lot of resources available online, and you can understand that. Okay, I also having some link I'll share with you. You can go through that, so you can understand these concepts very well. And once you understand, your foundation of deep learning, like deep learning is very, very solid. And then you once you can understand, then you can cover different algorithms. Like example, in deep learning in neural network, we are having basic artificial neural network. We also call it as feed forward network. So it is a basic model that we are having. Then for image processing, we are having convolution neural network. Okay, so understanding, like example, you can see here we are having an convolution neural network model, which you see right now. It is having input layer, certain convolution layers. It is having one type of activation function, that is ReLU basically. Along with that convolution, then you are having polling layers. So you can see, like, this convolution is having a certain architecture when you are building a model, and then it can tell you whether in that image we are having a zebra or not. Okay, so you build these models. So you should understand the architecture of these models that we are having. You should understand how these models work, what is the basic architecture of each of them, and also you should be able to build your own model. Like basis of this architecture, you should be able to write the code using keras or pytorch. Okay, and you should be able to solve different use cases that we are going through this. So different use cases are there, all of you. So once you understand CNN, basically again CNN is also having lot of basic parts like striding, padding, and all those things. So if you have gone through some of the AI courses, there are a lot of courses available online. You may understand, or if you've not gone through, no problem. You can still read. There are a lot of good YouTube videos. You can go through that. You can understand what are the different uh, basic parts that we are having. You can cover them. Again, there are a lot of projects. You can take some use cases and you can go through that. So very important here is going through these models, artificial neural network or feed forward network, then going through convolution neural network, which is basically used for image processing. Okay, there are certain variants of CNN, different architectures. You can go through that, like LXNet, ResNet. Lot of them are there, very advanced. And then how do we work on the text data? Like text data is basically a sequential data. So these we need to have another algorithm called as recurrent neural network. Okay, so like you're working on some sentiment analysis or you're working on summarization of text document. So we have these recurrent neural network, and again it is having certain variants. So you should be able to understand what is RNN, what is the architecture of RNN. So there are different types of gate in LSTMs. Like LSTM is a variant of, it's a type of RNN. It is having input gate, forget gate, output gate. So you should be able to understand what are these gating mechanism that we are having, how it is working, okay, how the prediction happens. So you can spend around some time, like at least 3-4 weeks again understanding these concepts. Now once you understand this, then you build a very solid foundation to understand the GenAI models. Okay, so other important part that you need to cover is NLP. Okay, you should know exactly what is natural language processing, what are the different tasks like language generation, question answer mechanism we are having. We are trying to do some sort of text classification or maybe sentiment analysis, or you are doing machine translation. So these different tasks, how do you do? If I give you a text, can you go and build a model? So you should be able to create, like you should be able to write some script. You should be able to use these algorithms. Okay, also there are different tasks like how do you clean a data? If I give you text data, it will be having a lot of noise in that. So how do you clean that data? There are different steps like stop word removal, tokenization, stemming lemmatization. There are a lot of concepts. These are again basic concepts that you need to know. Now once you know these basic concepts in NLP, you can go and you can solve any of these use cases, like building some sort of question answer mechanism, text classification, building some sort of sentiment analysis model, or maybe you want to proceed with some sort of machine learning. You can do all these tasks well. Okay, so again I'll just go through these what I've discussed. See, foundation model that I've discussed quickly, I'll just repeat. So we are talking about roadmap. If you want to actually be part of this generative AI journey in 2024, what are the things that you need to know? So I have just given you structure where I've divided into 3 learning drive and a specialization of generative AI. So foundation, as I discussed, this is going to be very base for you. Once you know that, then you move to the deep learning part. You do some good hands-on, practice on deep learning, and then you move to the GenAI, which is very, very important, because these two are the basic prerequisite for moving into the GenAI models. Otherwise, you will not understand these things. Again, we discuss about Python, foundation model, where you need to know, you need to have a good hands-on experience in Python. You should be knowing certain web applications. You should also be having some sort of understanding of linear algebra statistics, okay, and ML foundation. This we covered. Then we discuss about deep learning part. Like initial 1 or 2 months you can spend going through the foundation. Then next 2 months you can spend like 3-4 months you can spend understanding these technologies, like uh, going through TensorFlow, PyTorch. These are frameworks. Then learning about deep learning. What is exactly deep learning? What is back propagation? What is forward propagation? What is input layer, hidden layer, forward layer? What are these activation functions? What are the optimizers? Okay, and then you should be able to write the code also. You should be able to solve different types of use cases. Okay, and then learning different algorithms in this deep learning, like artificial neural network. We also call it as feed forward network. Then going for recurrent neural network, going for LSTM model, CNN for image processing, solving certain problems in them, understanding the basic concepts, okay, from a very layman's point of view. Also understanding the mathematical, the reason for that, understanding why that model is there, and architecture of that model, what are the basic units in that. And then you also cover basics of NLP, because NLP is the foundation of large language models that we are having right now. So when you are trying to build some sort of chatbot or maybe some sort of GenAI model, so NLP will help you. So you should know what is natural language processing, what is meaning of tokenization, what is meaning of stop words, what is lemmatization. So how do basically I remove the noise from the text data, and how do I clean it so that it can go to any of these model and it can give me very good output. So this was about deep learning part. Now once you've covered this, so you can spend around 2-3 months going through these, covering these concepts. And once you have done this, then finally now we can move to the GenAI part. So this is like you have done a foundation. Now you're having a solid understanding of your deep learning. Now you can move to the GenAI. So in GenAI, you should first know these basic models, introductive model that started with GenAI. Then you should also look into the advanced model that we are having. And finally, if you want to develop some application, so you may take some text data, you may need to store it somewhere. So there are certain vector databases that you need to know. We'll discuss about that, and you have to deploy the model also. Okay, so let us go through each of them. Now this is after you have completed your foundation, after you have completed your uh, deep learning part, you have done some hands-on, you have done some coding there. Now you can directly jump into the GenAI part. Again, I've structured in such a way that you may never feel like I'm not understanding, because this is like a continuous flow. Now when you move to this GenAI, so introduction to GenAI, we are having different types of model. Like here you see certain model, we call it as generative adversarial network model. So basically it's a GAN model that we are having. Then we are having a variational autoencoders, so we call it as VAEs. And then we are having a transformer based architectures. So these are all built on, like, there are certain mechanism. They have been these models have been created basis of the primitive models like RNN, LSTM that I discussed. So they were having certain limitations. So to resolve that limitations, we have further enhancement. We are getting these primitive models like GAN models, variational autoencoders. So what is autoencoder? What is meaning of these generative adversarial network? What is exactly GAN? How it is working? What is architecture of that? What are these transformer based model? If you look at Chat GPT, it is Chat generative transformer model. So what is that transformer model? What is encoder decoder in that? So this is where you need to spend some time, maybe after if you've completed your deep learning part, understanding what is encoder, what is decoder, going through these models, okay, understanding them, because this will really help you. So you understand the architecture of them, you understand how do I train any model. Like I want to build a transformer based model, so how do I go and build, what is the architecture of that, what are the applications I can build. So you need to go through them, okay? Like GAN network. Again, there is a lot of resource available online. There are very good YouTube videos available. You can spend some time going through that. I will also give you some link where you can go through this, okay? So when we talk about these GenAI tools, in the previous workshop also I've discussed about visual or audio. So in visual, like you want to do some sort of image generation. So from a text you want to generate an image, or maybe from a text you want to generate some sort of videos. You can do that, okay? So or you want to generate some sort of audio, okay? Or you are generating certain text only from these things. From images I want to extract certain text. So there are a lot of tools that we are available, okay? Basically either you want to generate some text, you want to generate some code, or maybe you want to generate some images, or you want to generate certain videos. Lot of the things are there which we are having. So there are different models. Now once you have gone through this, so these tools that you can use in either text or images or maybe speech. So there are certain foundation models. Foundation models are basically, see, we discuss about the primitive models like transformer models and all. So those models have been trained on huge corpus of data like Wikipedia data, encyclopedia data, huge. So you keep on hearing about 7 billion parameter, 13 billion so million and billion parameters. So what are those? Those are nothing but the model has got that much of learning. We normally call it as weight and bias that is stored as a learning. So recently the GPT-4 model is very advanced model of chat GPT. Same way Google is having that Palm model, Gemini models are there which are able to create certain images. In the last workshop that I'm planning on next week, I'll give you a demo of Gemini model, Llama 2 model, how to build a chatbot. I'll show you all those things. Again, Mr. 7 billion parameters is also there. So these are called as foundation models. On basis of that, you can go and you can do different tasks like question answering, building sentiment analysis, information extraction. You want to do image captioning, object recognition, or maybe some sort of instruction following. So you can actually go and build different application on this foundation model. I will be explaining you these foundation models, okay? Slow, very basically in the next session. But again, need to understand that these foundation models are basis of all the GenAI tasks that we are doing. Okay, so once you go through, again I am coming back to the very advanced part of generative AI that we are talking. So remember, in these, first you need to go through the introductive generative AI model, GenAI models that we are having. So what are the basic models? Like initially we talk about, the certain basic models are like GAN we are having, VAEs that we are having, okay, variational autoencoders, generative adversarial network we are having, and then there are certain transformer based models, okay, and we also have a multi models, okay, which you can spend some time going through that, okay, these models that we are having. Then once you understood this, like you've got some data. So for example, I want to build a chatbot on the enterprise data. So first of all, your model will not understand your data. You need to convert your data into a form that your model can understand. Okay. Now what are the ways, which are the format, like what way my model understand? So we call them as an encoding. So basically we encode them in a certain form like embeddings. So what we do, we convert the data into a form of vectors. Okay. So this process is called as embedding. So whenever you have some data, that data has to be converted as an embedding. I'll show you how does embedding looks like. So here you can see we were having some questions, okay, like this is some tickets that have been raised. So you can see that questions have been converted to an embedding in a vector form that model will understand. Now when you do these embeddings, when you convert these embeddings, what will happen? So when you are converting this embedding has to be stored somewhere, so that now whenever you are running the model, there should not be any latency. You are running that model. So there are different ways of storing these embeddings. So we have these, as you can see here, this vector database you will create where you will have all these different things, okay, like whether it is text or whether it is image, it could be anything. All these vectors you would be saving somewhere, some sort of database is required. So like as you can see, like traditionally we have data and we create a vector, we create a traditional database. But in terms of GenAI models, we create an embedding, and that embedding we store somewhere, some database. So here you see images. You can use these transformer models, GenAI models, and it could be used for object recognition, scene deletion, maybe